Well, 75% of the women with whom I spoke said that it's harder to leave a best friend, best or closest female friend, than it is to leave a romantic relationship or a marriage. So that says a lot, doesn't
Wow.
it?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So interesting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
88% of the women with whom I spoke told me that they'd had some kind of friendship problem with their best friend.
Welcome to the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast, where we hold your sensitive nature front and center. Because your sensitivity is a gift that needs polishing up every day. In our world of high stimulation, there's rarely a chance to sit back, listen, and go deep. Join me as I hang out with highly sensitive women and the healers who support them as we dive deep into all things sensitive, healing from childhood wounds, cool alternative methods for growth, and all the ways your sensitivities make you a powerful force to be reckoned with. So let's take a drive or a walk, or let's get comfy on the couch with a soft blanket and beverage. You're in for some wholehearted, soulful conversations with truly amazing women like you. Let's grow a strong community of awakened, sensitive women together. Hi, and welcome back to the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast. I am Biz Cush, your host. You may know me as Elizabeth Cush, but better known as Biz. And I'm super excited about today's guest for the podcast. And I also just wanted to share some announcements before we get started. The Circle of Sacred Sensitivity is open for registration. I am very excited about the space. I'm excited about the women who are joining and meeting me there. And I hope that you'll consider being a member. You get 14 days free when you sign up, and that'll give you a chance to kind of test it out and see whether you like it or not. And you can cancel at any time, but it is a monthly membership and it is for highly sensitive women. So if you are looking for community, this is not a business group. This is not a skills group. This is just a place to meet and connect and build your community of highly sensitive women. And I have added meditations and energetic practices there within the membership for you to access, all for the small monthly payment of $19 a month. Plus, we meet live every month for an hour and 15 minutes. So, can't get much better than that. So I hope you'll consider joining. You can find out more at elizabethcush.com, and you will find all the info there in the show notes. So my guest today is Susan Shapiro Barash, and we had an amazing conversation about friendships, about community for women, about how the patriarchy and capitalism has impacted our sense of what relationships should be or how we interact in relationships. It was fascinating. It was really very cool, but I don't have to tell you that. You can listen for yourself. So let's jump into that conversation. Hi, Susan. Welcome to the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, I'm excited to have this conversation. I feel like I've been talking to a lot of women about what we're going to talk about, friendships and things like that. But I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself for the listeners who don't know who you are.
Well, Estranged, How Strained Female Friendships Are Mended or Ended is my 18th book, and it's my 14th nonfiction book. And then under my pen name, I write dramatic women's fiction. And my pen name is Susanna Marin, so I have 4 novels under that name. And until COVID, for 24 years, I was a writing professor at Marymount Manhattan College. And the way that it works there is that I had a topic, and so my subject was gender. And it works and did work always perfectly with what I write about, which is how women of all ages, a very diverse group of women, are positioned in contemporary American society.
That feels like such an important topic that I feel like we could just talk about that. But I, I also know just from the work that I'm doing with my clients that often, and even in friendships that I have, people are, the women I know are talking about just their friendships and how at this time in their life, so probably midlife, they're realizing that some of the friendships aren't as aligned as they thought they were in the past. And really sort of navigating that landscape of like, well, what do I do with that now? If I've been friends for 30 years, now what? If I feel like it's not aligned anymore.
Well, yes, definitely women in midlife and beyond, but also young women. So for this study, I interviewed 150 women and also have a questionnaire for another 111 women at the back of the book, a survey. And as I
Mm,
said, a very diverse group in terms of age, race, ethnicity, level of education, religion, and living all over the country in suburbs, cities, rural areas, and really looking at I'm always looking at the emotional issues for women.
yeah,
Female
yeah,
friendships are incredibly important to us. So when there's a
yeah,
problem or they fail, we really suffer and question a great deal.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I feel like, I mean, I think you've identified yourself through our emails as a highly sensitive woman. And I myself am. And I feel like it hits us even maybe more deeply if like a friendship
Mhm.
is struggling or suffering, that we really feel it in a way that maybe the average person might not.
And the sense of loss when it goes wrong is so great. So
Yeah.
that's, but a
Yeah.
lot of women talked about it, about feeling betrayed and feeling as if they had stayed loyal for way too many years. And the idea that we are failing if this is what's trending now, that the idea that we fail if we don't stay with the friend is what we've always been taught, best friends forever. However, what I
Mm,
saw in this study is that women are now saying, you know what? I need to preserve myself and I can't stay with this friend where it's no longer healthy or happy. And I'm finally able to leave and see a better other side. The other side of it will be much better for me.
hmm. And what prompted you to write this book? Did you yourself have friendships that were sort of going awry, or just something that you were seeing out in, more out in the world?
Well, as I said, it's my 14th nonfiction book. And so any book that I've written because I couldn't find the study slash book in a bookstore. And as the late, great Toni Morrison said, although I'm paraphrasing, if there's a book you
Yeah.
need and you don't see it, you should write it. And that
Yeah.
certainly applied to me when I was a very young bride years ago. And there was no book on mothers in law and daughters in law. And also
Mm,
no books on being a second wife. So eventually I realized I needed to write those books and see how other women in that with this sort of
yeah.
complicated mother-in-law or being a second wife, even at a very young age, how did they feel about it? So I looked into that, and I've actually done several studies on the role of wife in America because we expect so much. And I've also written a book on female rivalry and a book on
Mm,
sisters and a book on mothers and daughters. So, this is what I'm looking at. So, in terms of this book, 7.5 years ago, my beloved mother died. And I was really surprised by which friends were there for me and which friends actually weren't there, and kind of
yeah.
didn't reach out and didn't really understand the gravity of my sorrow and how deep
Yeah.
it went. And so I decided to look into it and see how my hunch that in times of great sadness or times of great joy, we really understand who the friends are and who they aren't for us. And
Mm.
as I said, I interview 150 women per book or up to 200, depends on the book. But for this book, I interviewed 25 women, and all of them were saying, and as I said, 7.5, almost 8 years ago. And all of them
Hmm.
were saying, oh my God, I wish I could leave. I just dread being alone. I dread being alone in the group. I'm afraid I'll lose other friends because we share them or we have a history together. All the reasons, or, as a pleaser, how could I not get this right? All of the usual
Yeah.
mistakes, the price of being a good girl. But I
Mm.
I told my agent I wanted to write this book, and she said to me, you are under contract for your novels first. So by the time I went back to this, like 2.5 years
Mm.
ago, everything had changed. COVID had happened, so it was, yeah, like 2 years ago for sure. And
Yeah.
the Me Too movement had really had impact, and women were
Yeah.
saying something very different. They were
Oh,
saying,
interesting.
I can leave this friend. I'll have
Hmm.
better friends if I leave. Or I did leave the friend and I have better friends and I feel better. I'm stronger. So it's not that it's easy to do, but that we feel empowered to do it.
Yeah. Interesting. Which I love. I love that women are feeling more empowered to really seek out friendships that do serve them, that are more reciprocal and enriching and supportive. I know, yeah, I have had some, I can relate to being in a relationship with a friend for too long, like recognizing that it was harmful, but also feeling like I needed to stay. This was years ago because of the group, because of where we lived, because of the history, and finally being able to say, like, this just doesn't work anymore. And as hard as that was, it really opened so many doors for me to leave that behind.
Well, 75% of the women with whom I spoke said that it's harder to leave a best friend, best or closest female friend, than it is to leave a romantic relationship or a marriage. So that says a lot, doesn't
Wow.
it?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So interesting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
88% of the women with whom I spoke told me that they'd had some kind of friendship problem with their best friend.
Interesting. And so, like, why? I mean, do you have a sense for why that's harder? Like, you would think a partner or a husband or a wife would be harder to leave than a best. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe because the best friend is like the best friend. And so, what does that mean if that's not there anymore?
Well, partly it is that there has been so much intimacy, so many
Yeah.
shared feelings, secrets, thoughts, hopes, and
Yeah.
sense that we're so understood. You
Yeah.
cannot be understood. How could your friend betray you? I mean, think of all that she did that made you feel safe in this friendship, in this relationship, when you didn't feel safe anywhere else. The whole
Mm.
idea for women really is that this friend is a safe harbor. I mean, we're talking about the closest friends or best friends. We're not
Yes.
talking about the woman you walk 3 miles with every day, or at the gym, or she carpools on Wednesdays and Fridays, and you do the rest of the week with your young children. But the friend where you've really sought her out and you've shared
Yeah.
so much,
Yeah.
as
Really
you said,
opened your heart.
yeah, the reciprocity and the trust level. So
Yeah.
it's a very
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah, yeah, really big deal. And that, you said this word a couple times, but that betrayal of when it feels that it's not, that something is shifted or changed, or that maybe you no longer trust them because of whatever has happened. And that feels very deep
Well, the
too.
way that these friendships break up is two major ways. One is something so egregious happens, like if she's your best friend at work, she steals your idea that you've confided in her and presents it as her own, or she flirts with your new boyfriend, or she is socially ambitious and you no longer fit in. And so she
Mm,
actually doesn't invite you anymore and you learn about it. All of these things are very, very like incendiary. And suddenly there's a huge blow up.
yeah.
And then, it's over. Or it's cumulative.
Mm,
She's really not respecting you, or did you imagine it? She
yeah.
really hasn't had time for you, but maybe you have to just understand her schedule better. Or she has little children now and you're still single in the city and you don't understand her life and she doesn't understand yours, but you still try. Those are much more where they just all add up in some way. So those are
Hmm.
really the two ways. But in either situation, we end up knowing that the fit is no longer really right.
Yeah. 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 No, I feel that. And I haven't read your book, so I have to say that, but it intrigues me and I'm going to. But are there signs or signals that through your research you have seen that women are picking up on these things throughout? I mean, you shared a couple of things, but how might a woman know if they're not sensing it within, like that maybe it's time to move on?
Well, I do think a lot of the women do feel it in some way, even though they
Mm-hmm.
make excuses. They
Mm-hmm.
feel that it's no longer what it was, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it just is uneasy. It's no longer fun. You want to avoid her.
Mm,
You don't believe what she says anymore. There's a lot of doubt around it. And
yeah.
those are signals, but we don't always act on it. As I said, if something really horrific happens, then you can't ignore it. But when it's more subtle, then you're sometimes late to the game and you
Mm-hmm.
don't realize that this friend is no longer really your friend. And that's very
Yeah.
hard. It's very,
That is really
we're
hard.
supposed to be in it together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I heard you say at the beginning of this conversation that for you, it involved losing your mother and
Right.
who showed up and who didn't. And I feel like I hear that a lot from clients where something significant has happened in their life and they're so like, how did, whether it was a sister or a best friend, right? That like, how did they not maybe? Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned sisters because here's what happened. When I was writing the book, I said to my editor, look, these women are all saying, this diverse group of women, they're saying, oh, a lot of them, oh, everyone thought we were sisters. We were so close, or it felt like
Oh,
sisters. That's why I'm suffering so. And I
mm,
asked if I could have at least one sister, story per chapter so that we could look at what it's like to fall out with your sister because with our friends, we choose them. It's fictive
right,
family, if we will. We choose them
right.
and they're not assigned to us. But with sisters, there's the hovering mother, there's the family, and the expectation that family is a thick, really strong.
The bond. Yeah.
So while the behaviors might be the same, the sense of loss is so tremendous. And there's always that feeling that the mother would be disappointed or she is disappointed. So that
Mm.
differentiates it. But sisters have falling outs too. And years
Oh,
ago,
sure.
when I wrote the book Sisters Devoted or Divided, that's when I did that book and interviewed the women. It was very interesting because when the sisters were no longer speaking, they were seeking out very close female friends. And if they were very tight, they didn't really need their female friends the same
Mm.
way those of us who don't have a sister do.
Interesting. That makes sense, though, because that
Mhm.
becomes sort of the de facto best friend that you share all the things with,
And the other
your
part is,
sister.
in both sister situations and best friend situations, we're really talking about the sheer force of a female bond,
Mm.
of what that provides for us.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so important. I mean, I feel like the times in my life where that bond has felt, I'm going to say the word shattered, broken, I felt it's such a loss at not having that anchor, right? That person I just knew was always going to be there. I mean, I do have a sister, but she lives far away, so we don't see each other that much. So, but yeah, that losing that best friend really almost destabilized my sense of safety in the world for a long time.
That's exactly what the women are saying. I mean, on the other hand, 75% of the women told me that they were relieved to leave a
Hmm.
friendship that had turned so sour, and
Yeah, yeah,
72% said they had the courage to do it. So
yeah,
we hold the bar high, but we eventually face the reality if need be.
yeah, yeah. Well, and it certainly was the right thing to do in terms of my own situation. It was definitely the healthiest thing I could do for myself. Yeah, but hard nonetheless.
Well, when I was starting to write this book and do the research, and I did a, in there are the so let me just say the layout of the book is that there are many short interviews, just where the women, give us their story, and then per
Mm,
chapter there's one sister story, and then there's
mm.
also per chapter one long both sides of the breakup story. And I call
Oh,
it She Said,
interesting.
She Said. And
Yeah,
those read almost like fiction. I mean, they're just like narratives. They're really, they have a beginning, a middle, an end. And, what happened to these two friends. And both sides were willing to talk to me, which was really
interesting.
something. I found that all of
Yeah.
it really intriguing. Every story that was shared, either,
Mm,
the shorter stories or the long, both sides of the stories really, really were very poignant and very heartfelt. But I also
mm,
look in the book at pop culture and I look at some celebrity culture. So
mm.
my daughter, my eldest and first daughter, said to me a few weeks ago, she said, Mom, did you know that? And she sent me, of course, she texted the link that, Blake Lively and Taylor Swift no longer speak to each other. And Taylor's over
Mm,
what's happened with Blake Lively, apparently. And I think, yeah, and that it was precipitated by Taylor Swift. But in the book, I look at other celebrity women, and I even look at Ella Fitzgerald and Marilyn Monroe. They were so close, but Ella Fitzgerald was very concerned about her friend Marilyn's drug use and drinking. And I have a whole chapter on when we enable a friend who has some sort of addiction
mm.
and what that does to the person who's really carrying the burden and how hard it is to be that kind of friend. But I also
Yeah.
looked at competitive friends, sort of the
Mm.
Betty and Veronica's of it all, and some famous stories. And it's just been going on forever. It's
Yeah.
it's just if I were in a classroom right now, I would say to the students, it's partly nurture, which is what we're taught by society, how women always operate in terms of limited goods. We're told because we live in a patriarchy that there's not enough pie to go around. So if your
Yeah.
best friend gets the job or the guy or gets to move, somehow we think there's some magical theft and we won't get our opportunity. We have to stop thinking like that. And then there's our nature. How competitive or jealous are you by nature?
Mm.
And so these are the things that factor in, the societal prescription, and then how we really feel individually in these friendships.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I feel like part of that cultural messaging around women and being friends is this sort of that we're this sort of gossipy tribe of females that are either talking about each other behind our backs, that we're friends, but we're kind of, snarky behind when the other person's not there, that there's this sense through, movies and social media that like this is sort of a normal dynamic, which I I struggle with that piece of it, but also have struggled with that looking back at friendships throughout my life where it did feel like when that other, the third person wasn't there, that's who you were talking about, right? And
Yeah,
which
which
just
is,
leaves this sense of unsafety in all relationships.
yes, it's really a form of betrayal, and you feel
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
as you said, the lack of safety. And
yeah,
again, that really, there has to be a much better standard. And the
yeah,
authentic friend wouldn't do that. She
right,
wouldn't go for that.
right. No,
She would
no,
just
no.
want
And
the good and be supportive. And there's that too.
yes,
And sometimes in this book, women are losing touch, although this is primarily about real breakups, not just, oh, we grew apart or we lost touch, but when we reunited, it was as if nothing had happened, no time had passed. We've all heard that. But
yeah.
this is where there's really a critical situation, and then everything
Yeah.
shapeshifts.
Yeah. 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 No, I get that. I do. Yeah. I've just been, well, I'm 65 now and just really being more mindful about the women I welcome into my circle because I want it to be a space of, yeah, not the competitiveness, not the jealousy, not the backbiting. Like it just needs, yeah, I want to just feel held and supported in my relationships, all of them.
But what's so fascinating is, because I mentioned that I spoke with women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s,
Yeah.
till a little past 80. We women in our society reinvent themselves about every 10 years. You're a
Hmm.
young working woman, you're maybe a bride, whatever happens, you have children, you meet other women with children. It's easier to be with the mirroring friend, the friend who has the exact same experience going on. The kids grow up, we all get them through high school, college, we get them through. And for
Hmm.
all of that, there's a lot of the theory of homogamy, like with like. Your life is so similar to mine. Of course, we're close because of that commonality. But
Hmm.
what was so curious to me in this book is that 50 and 60-year-old women, retire in their 60s, some of them, and move
Hmm.
to a community. New friends wherever we go, new friends when we move, new friends when, we're now empty nesters, all different experiences, but many times the same situation where you meet a new friend, you're enthused or you're reunited, and then that inciting incident, something. For example,
Hmm.
I interviewed a woman who said that she was in her early 60s and she had moved to a retirement community with her husband. And
Hmm.
everyone was so happy. There was a new couple in the community, and they had dinners and they were included, and there were card games and all the stuff that goes on. And then, book club, everything was inclusive. And then her husband unexpectedly died. And as a widow, she felt shunned. The couples took her out, each of the couples took her out once, and then basically they didn't want a third wheel. The widows
Hmm.
and divorced groups weren't very inviting because it was competitive. And,
Hmm.
someone said, well, aren't there enough single women around here?
Wow.
So she really, once again, felt she didn't know where she really belonged. And she'd given up
Yeah.
the old life and the old town, her hometown. So I think we have to be very watchful, because this limited goods situation that we all live with can really create a problem. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone acted like we don't need one more widow.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Don't need one more widow or one more a woman competing for maybe a widower,
Right, right. Are
right?
there any around? Let's grab them. Oh, but she can't be in line to grab them. So it really becomes a situation for women where they feel uneasy and they've left the old friends behind. So it happens at every stage. A good example of that I cite in the book as an
Mhm.
example of fictive family is Sex in the City. And
Mm,
that template is one where the friends clearly select each other. They're not assigned.
right.
There's no family except Miranda's character had a mother-in-law back, not in the
Mm,
new version, and just like that, but that's what it's called. But in Sex and the City many years ago, when she marries Steve, there's
mhm.
Anne Mira, the actress, plays her mother, but in law. But for the most part, no family. We don't see siblings. We
Right.
don't see mothers coming to town. They provide fictive family. They are.
Yeah.
That's the paradigm. They are family for each
Yeah.
other. It all goes really well. They sit around tables in New York restaurants and chat and reveal their innermost hopes. But when just apropos of this limited goods, theory is that
Mhm.
when Charlotte is trying to have a baby and trying to have a baby and finally adopts and does in vitro and goes through everything. And then Miranda just announces at one of their meals, guess what? I'm pregnant. I never expected
Mm,
this. And it's shocking to all four of them, even to Miranda. But Charlotte says something like, no, I'm supposed to be pregnant. And that really, but again, I paraphrase, but the point is that we can't think that if our friend has success, she took our chance too, because that's not how it works. And women
yeah.
won't have all the options they need until they don't view the world that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that feels like bigger message than just around friendships,
Yeah,
right? Like,
exactly. But around like females uniting and bonding and not feeling like we're in perpetual competition. I had written
yes.
years ago, I did a book called Tripping the Prom Queen, The Truth About Women
Mm,
Rivalry. And in that book, I really listened to women, again, a very disparate group, talk about the ways in which they felt that they were in constant competition with even their closest friends and other women.
yeah. Yeah. Oof. It's exhausting.
Exhausting and really not the right way to operate.
No,
So,
no, no.
to bring a new friend in to belong to a group, which is so important to women,
Hmm.
is supposed to be very secure and also is supposed to be the one safe haven because children
Mm,
can be tricky. They grow up, they leave the
mm,
house. The men come and go for various reasons. I mentioned a widow, to the divorce rate. And so the friends are supposed to be there no matter what. And women in
yeah,
this book talked about that, about, the struggle when the friend isn't really coming through and how much that really discourages them and how much you feel like you're alone when you expected to have that buffer.
yeah, yeah. I can so relate to that. And I do find personally, and as I work with clients, that for them too, as they're healing the wounds of whether it's a betrayal in a friendship or past childhood wounds, that it does help them find more secure, safe relationships with other women because they themselves feel like less in competition or less that scarcity of like, there's nobody out there for me. So I got to grab what I can. It's just more of a sense of meeting somebody else from your heart.
Yes. And so many women talked about how they used to share values. One chapter that I would not have expected to
Mm,
write when I first pitched this book, when my mom died, is a chapter that became important based on, the interviewees describing what I call the chapter the disparaging friend. And that's the friend who's so critical in a way that it didn't happen in years ago. We were more careful, but because maybe social media, we just say everything is spilled. So that was one chapter I didn't think I'd really have when I first started it. And the other is the diametrically opposed friend, where you
Mm.
really don't have the same political beliefs anymore. You don't look at vaccine and boosters the same way. You don't look at how to raise your children in terms of their health and boosting and inoculating the same way. And whereas in days gone by, it would have been, oh,
Mm.
well, she and I did not vote for the same candidates, to today being like, why would I be friends with someone who voted for that person instead of my person? And so
Yes.
much more divisive.
Yes. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We must
Yeah.
see
I
it in your
just remember.
practice. I mean,
Absolutely. Families that are like, yeah, just destroyed through political divisiveness or whatever. Yeah. Values. Yeah.
yeah, to no longer really, I mean, even, goes back to the other chapter that our value system used to be much more respectful, but now, like maybe you wouldn't be hard on your friend, but now people are leaving friends in this chapter because of who they voted for. Just
Yeah.
unbelievable. Could not have predicted that.
Yeah. I bet not. I bet not. Yeah. It does feel like it's a whole different world we're living in right now with
Oh,
as much
there's so
divisiveness as
many.
there
That would be
is.
a whole other show. A whole other.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
what's really common is the green-eyed friend. That's another one of my chapters where
Mm.
we've just seen it, we've been taught it. Our mentors have shown us what jealous women can do, what they feel like. And
Yeah.
so that's something that we really know about. And women
Oh,
talked about that
absolutely.
and how hard that was to have a
Yeah.
friend who is just so, the jealousy just is a very bad vibe and often prevalent, often really just part of the friendship, especially when, the glittering prizes for women are now going to your friend and not to you. So if we believe in it, say the right lifestyle, the right marriage, if you want it, children, if you want it, great success in a capitalistic society, beauty,
Hmm.
privilege, all that we're
Yeah.
told to hope for and to aspire to. And if one friend ascends with all this and the other is really stuck or worse, descends, it creates a lot of friction and jealousy. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet. I bet the sense of, yeah, why me? Either like, why me? Why didn't I get to have all that?
Right.
Or some negative feelings towards the person who you are jealous of. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
there's the
Mm.
hierarchy of friendships. I mean, I'm more important to my best friend than I'm more that she's not as important to me. It was someone say, I care about her, but I have a significant other, or my two sisters and I are so close. So that kind
Mm.
of inequality in terms of what you mean and where you belong in the other person's life is very hard to. Just another aspect of feeling like
Mm.
the friendship isn't rewarding. The give and take isn't the
Wow.
same. She takes all the time, women would say. I give all the time. Young women,
Abs-
45-year-old women, 70-year-old women talking about that still.
Oh, yeah. 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 No, I have heard that in with work and my clients of, yeah, just feeling really unseen or even just unvalidated in a group of friendships where other people seem to have more space or be given more
Right,
space.
right. And I would
Yeah.
come through for
Yeah.
her, she won't come through for me. Or
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
lied to me about her plans. I've included her in everything. just
Mm,
through the stories. You really
yeah,
hear it. You hear women who are so disappointed, so let down by the friend. And then there's the estranger, the one who leaves this friendship and puts that into play, and the estrangee, the person who's at the receiving end of the breakup.
totally. Yeah. Well, I feel like we could probably talk about this for another 40 minutes or so, but I want to be mindful of your time and respectful of your time. But this was so interesting. And so I feel like it's so on point for what I'm hearing from my own clients and friends, and just sort of navigating this season of, or whatever, where they are in their friendships, and just really kind of reevaluating. And it feels like like I said, I'm going to get your book, but it just feels really relevant for what we're going through right now.
It is. Thank you for saying that. I think that we're not going to give up on our female friends, but we have to understand which ones have offer the real support and the truest safe harbor, and those who don't, and get over the shock effect of how it's no longer what it was, and preserve ourselves in order to have better bonds going forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. So important. So important. Well, if people wanted to find out more about all of your work, but particularly this new book, how do they find you?
They can go to my website, which is susanshapiroBarash.com or susannamarin.com. Both names will get you there. Or, follow me on Instagram or Facebook.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I will include all the links to your
Thank you.
yeah, for your social media and your website and the show notes. And yeah, I look forward to sharing this with my listeners and the rest of the world. Yeah. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you very much.
So I really, really enjoyed my conversation with Susan Shapiro Barash. And I knew that I would, just based on looking at all the books she's written and her topics of, really focusing on women in our current, in the United States, and the impact of society and culture on us and our relationships. So super interesting. She was also very easy to talk with and a very intelligent, kind, sensitive person. So it was really enjoyable to be in conversation with her. But what I really found fascinating was just the friendship dynamics that she highlighted, jealousy, the competitive nature in female friendships, the fact that often maybe there might be a lack of loyalty within those relationships, betrayal, life changes that can shift a relationship, and just hierarchy, right? Right? Are you part of the in group anymore? Are you allowed to participate in a particular, or are you being invited? So I just found the whole conversation enlightening and really poignant, really important for us as women, especially highly sensitive women, to know that there are times when you need to walk away from a friendship. And as hard as that can be, it can open up space for friendships that truly resonate, that are truly aligned, that are better for you. I hope you'll check out her books. I hope you will check out her website. It just feels like there's so much great information that she has been writing about and researching for years. So check out her stuff. Also, if you're interested in finding women who can meet you where you are as a highly sensitive woman, to check out the Circle of Sacred Sensitivity on my website. We are adding new members every day. It's a minimal monthly cost to connect with other women, find resources, and meet live once a month. So I hope you'll check it out. The Circle of Sacred Sensitivity at elizabethcushcoaching.com or elizabethcush.com. I hope to see you there. And I look forward to connecting with you here on the podcast next time. Thanks for listening to the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast. The information in this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health professional. Music by Andy Cush, sound editing by Laura Disler, and show notes by Kathy Cush. If you'd like more information about me, Biz Cush, and the resources shared today, go to awakenyourwisewoman.com.